edition of the Contractor's Secret Weapon weekly podcast with your hosts, Dave Negri. This program is dedicated to helping contractors, remodelers, painters, roofers, roof cleaners, and business owners in the construction industry gain an unfair advantage over the competition. This program supplies you with information that the competition doesn't even know exists. This session brought to you by ContractorsSecretWeapon.com.
Before we get into the conversation with you, I just want to do a shout out to our sponsors who help promote Contractor's Secret Weapon and just some of the things that they have in store for you, our listeners. Hey, is your phone ringing enough? Do you want it to ring more with highly motivated and qualified buyers that contact you, the contractor, directly? No more waiting for the phone to ring. Just answer that phone. Best Home Services leads are dedicated to making your phone ring with motivated buyers that call you directly. There's no obligation to talk with them. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/money. Fill out the form to secure your discount on the setup fee. Do it today. This special will not last forever. Check them out at ContractorSecretWeapon.com/money.
Running a small business is no easy task, and I should know because I had a service company for almost 10 years. I am the founder of a software called Radius Bomb, and it's unbelievable. And for all the listeners of Contractor's Secret Weapon, we have a special offer for you to check out. If you want to send hyper-targeted, laser-focused, super personalized postcards to your exact prospects using a map while sitting in your underwear, then go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb, and we'll give you your first 100 postcards for free. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb.
Hey, this is Dave Negri with Contractor's Secret Weapon podcast, and today we have an exciting guest. Of course, all of our guests are exciting because you guys get to listen to our conversation, which is so awesome. But today I have Whitney Hansen, and Whitney is founder of WhitneyHansen.com, and she has her own podcast. She's the host of the Money Nerds podcast. And a little bit about Whitney is she said, a secret nerd in school who listened to Success Magazine CDs in her car and read personal finance books for fun. My business blossomed after discovering I could make a bigger impact by helping millennials manage their money rather than sitting behind a cubicle as an accountant. And being a money nerd also led me to creating a personal finance course at Boise State University, so she gets to teach everyone about her passion of helping people manage their money. And so today, I'm just glad that Whitney could be with us. Whitney, thanks so much for being with us today.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and get to talk about money.
Cool. I love to talk about money. So one of the things that Whitney did as she graduated college, and some of us was many millennial ago, and others was just recently, is that she was really in debt of about $30,000, and it took her about 10 months to get out of debt. So we really want to talk about that today and relate that to our businesses. Well, and our personal stuff, too, because a lot of times they get mixed together, and one causes a detriment to the other. So, Whitney, how did you get out of debt? How did you realize that you could get out of debt?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in order to answer that, I got to take you back a little bit because I think it's important to know that I didn't have this education. I didn't have this family that constantly talked about money. It was a very dysfunctional family that I grew up in. So I didn't really know exactly how to approach this stuff. So I was the first person in my family to go off to college. And I did what everybody else does. You take out all the student loans. I mean, financial aid offices tell you that. Everybody in the world will tell you that. Education's worth the debt. And so I bought into that. I really did. And so when I graduated with my bachelor's in accounting and I had that $30,000 bill, that physical paper bill at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? It's a lot of money, right? And so for a 21, 22-year-old, that was even more money because I was looking at my career trajectory and I was looking at maybe $45,000 out of college. I'm thinking, wow, that's like my entire salary. So I had to put together a plan. And all through undergrad, I worked as a nail technician. So I did manicures and pedicures at a salon.
Okay.
And yeah, it was really weird. So I was a nail tech and then a staff accountant. So I did both jobs for a little bit of time. but I knew that my nail tech job could support me because I lived on it for 4.5 years. So I already knew I could survive on that. And then all of my accounting income, which was the larger of the two, went directly towards my student loans. So every single check, I didn't touch a single check of that for actually a little bit over a year. And it took me the 10 months to pay off the debt. And then I kept doing that for a little bit longer as well to bank up a lot of money.
Sure.
And so that was the secret. But honestly, that sounds so simple, but it's the tough little decisions that get you. So it was saying no to eating out. I didn't go to Starbucks at all. I didn't eat out literally at all. I was spending no extra money, but I was so busy as well that I didn't actually have time to think about spending extra money. I was working like 80 hours a week.
Wow.
And so it was a lot. But when people hear that and they're like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. It was only for 10 months, guys. Like, that's not that long of a time in the grand scheme. So I think do the hard work now and you will be so grateful you did later. I can promise you that.
Right. And there's always a reward for doing the extra things if you set a time limit to it anyways, like you said, a year. And if it would have taken you 2 years, you would have done that too, right?
I would have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because the goal was to get out of debt.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And I think I realized for my personal life that when you have debt, it makes decisions for you. So you're no longer the person in the driver's seat making the calls. And I've noticed that even more so when you are a business owner that has debt, that is like having an investor. It's equally as bad. Your income immediately goes to that person instead. So you lose control when you have debt in every area. And I don't like that.
And that investor is not a nice guy.
No, they tend to be really mean. I hear they call you and harass you.
They want their truck back, or they want this back, or can you please pay this? I know I've been doing a lot of probably the past year or so. I've been doing a lot of research and study on money and stuff like that, and it just amazes me that 29% of everybody's income, on average, goes to interest. Mm-hmm. Which is scary.
Crazy.
It's scary. I mean, what could you do with another 29%?
Oh, a whole heck of a lot, right? Like, think of all the investing in your business you could do and the growth you could get.
Yeah, but I know. And so when you have a lot of debt, it becomes your boss, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So you teach. You put together a course and you teach college. And so we were talking about this a little earlier with millennials, and it really doesn't matter what age group because everybody falls into a certain I'm going to try and think of a decent word, a non-money knowing, or not knowing about money criteria. Everybody.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah. I think that because we're not taught, what money can do, we're taught what, and I think my grandparents are old. Now they're all dead, but they paid cash for everything.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah. So if and I've gotten out of debt once, and of course. There's a lot of other situations and stuff taking one back, but we're slowly getting out of debt again. Mm-hmm. But your savings, I know my savings exponentially grew when I had no debt.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, but your savings do grow exponentially. However, I've noticed that working with people, getting them out of debt, they're super gung-ho, they're excited, they get all in, they're committed, and they pay off the debt really quickly. But when they go to bring that same intensity to a savings account, it doesn't quite work the same way. And I honestly don't quite understand why that is. But it's almost like we with debt, you've got a very set goal. And you know that you're paying somebody else interest. But when it's for our own benefit, sometimes we slow down just a little bit more than we should on the savings piece. You still bank up a lot of money, but it's not at that same intensity as when you're paying off debt. And it's just strange, but that's something that I've seen quite a bit as I've been working with people.
That's kind of interesting. I guess it would be makes sense because now you've got that load off your mind of the debt being your owner, and you've got money to play with, in essence.
Yeah.
So as long as as you get out of debt, I would imagine you've learned the lessons you need, the different mindset about what money is and how to spend it and how to use it. Then I would imagine that, for a little while you would be free to have fun with it since you were so diligent in getting out of debt. So I guess, but there has to be another mindset after that, or
absolutely
you'll come back. So how do you, in your college course, how many hours is that?
It's 2 credit hours,
Okay.
so it's an elective class. People are actually taking it because they want to be there, which is, I think, awesome.
That is awesome, yeah, because they're coming to the realization that they need to get out of where they're at. So, what are some of the things that you see? Let's say as most people come into the class, they know that they need or want and it is a needs want thing, but. How do they respond? I mean, there's some good people. There are people that really go gung-ho, and there are other people. What are some of the things that you think hold them back?
Yeah. So for college students that I'm working with, and my big goal is to get them out of college with as little debt as possible so that their entire future isn't sabotaged by the time they're 21. And so the stuff that I see with college students is they are eating out, and it's not just them, it's everybody actually, but they are eating out a lot, like much more than they should. I've seen people that were spending $400 a month on eating out when their income's like $800. So, I mean, it's bad. It's real bad. And so that's obviously an extreme example, but what is not an extreme example is the students that are going out of state for college and they're financing their education because they also bought into this myth that you've got to go to college and pay a lot of money in order to get this like great degree. And it's just not true. So I'm seeing students that are not even graduated and have close to $50,000, $60,000 in debt. And just to give you like a perspective of what does that mean long term, you're looking at probably an $800 or $900 payment a month.
For how long with interest?
Usually that's 10 years, and that's if you're on a standard repayment plan. And interest is about 7% on average.
Wow.
So it's painful, and that this is the kind of stuff they're faced with. And that's like once they graduate, it's not uncommon for students to have about $100,000 in debt. I used to think that was one-offs. Now I'm a little bit kind of sad about that because I tend to be a little bit more realistic now that most students have some type of debt. And if the ones that go out of state are in for a real struggle if they're financing their college education through loans.
You see, it makes me stutter. Because I never went to college because out of high school, I made more money than the average college person that was graduating.
That's awesome.
And because I was in sales, I sold, but it just amazed me. And when I think about it, because I asked people, well, why did you go to college? Well, I wanted to become a teacher. I was like, that's an honorable profession. Mm-hmm. It is, but what are, when you look at your costs compared to your return, you're going, that really stinks because you've got to pay all this debt back because they don't pay nothing back then. And still today, I would imagine that most places don't pay in proportion to what you're spending in college.
You're spot on. That's the big issue for our society is this whole, you graduate with a lot of debt. I think we're looking at $1.4 trillion in student loan debt. Yeah, it's severe. And so there's this whole concept of higher education is becoming more expensive. And yet students are not making the money to compensate for that as well. And touching on like the millennial generation, so like the 25 to about 35, sometimes 38, depending on what data you're looking at, that generation is the most educated that we've ever seen and the most underemployed. So it's a big problem.
And they make the least I don't know if they make the least amount of money, but from what I've seen, their spending habits are really atrocious.
They're very atrocious sometimes. They really are.
Because they have no. I was looking at. Because of the business my wife and daughter run, there was a real estate agent says, we need to put together a class on how to sell real estate to millennials. So I just did some fun research real quick, and I'm going, why? Granted, everyone should be able to buy a home, but from all the research that I saw, that most millennials can't come up with $1,000 for a down payment for an apartment. Forget about a house.
Right. Yeah.
So it's overcoming that. How do you overcome that?
It's kind of twofold, right? So it's a society kind of thing that we've got to work on as a whole, of not encouraging 18-year-olds to totally trash their financial future through stupid decisions. And I say I'm picking on the younger generation. It's not just the younger generation.
No,
I see this all across the board.
I mean, I've made a lot of dumb mistakes.
Oh, me too, all the time.
It was it was not conventional education, but it was, books, tapes, and seminars. So, I've probably paid for, in books, tapes, and seminars for different businesses that I've had or run, probably a good couple of college educations, but everything was tied to what can I get out of it? What kind of return can I get out of it? Like, I remember when we were buying and selling houses back in 2005, 2006, it would take nothing to go jump on a plane, pay for a plane fare, and go to a seminar that cost $1,500 so that you could learn one nugget on how to make an extra $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 on buying and selling a couple houses the next year.
Yeah.
So there was a return for the investment, but I don't see that kind of return in normal education. There should be. I would imagine there should be. Hopefully.
There definitely should be.
Right.
You're right. I mean, that's kind of this whole concept of instant gratification. And unfortunately, the busier we become with our just daily lives, social media, everything's just flying so fast that it's easier to not necessarily have to pay attention or get like a little nugget here and there, which is amazing. But it's that implementation of that in a really, really busy world. And then that comparison syndrome that we struggle with. We see, Dave was on Instagram and he went to Greece again, or, wherever people, and then it's immediately like, what's wrong with me? I should be traveling more. And then we have credit cards that we can easily just swipe and be on that amazing trip. And so we're thinking so short term that we're not thinking, but what does that mean long term? Like, that's not free money. I got to pay that back.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle I see all the time. It's really sad, but it's there.
I think it is because it's just so easy to get and like, for everybody, isn't it?
It's way too easy. I mean, you've got a job. You can go online. You can apply for credit cards. If you've got bad credit, you can still get a credit card. Like, you can get a car loan. There is access to money, to debt, is so readily available to us that it's almost sickening on how easy it is to get debt if you really want it.
Wow, I know, and I see it in the contractor world too, where guys will I need a new truck. And,
yeah.
And well, okay, I have someone that I know that owns a business, and he has a plumbing business, and he has a very short-term attention span for vehicles. 2 years, I'm tired of this. I need a new one. Is it paid off? Well, no. Why not? Well, because I need a new one. Okay. But it just doesn't, to me, stuff like that doesn't compute. I want my vehicles to look nice. I want them to run nice, but I also need to know that as the economy fluctuates so much, that I need to be in a really good financial situation in case 2008 happens again.
And it will, right?
It's
like, when, we don't know,
right.
But it's definitely going to, maybe not to that same severity, but it's
right.
going to happen again on some way.
Well, everything's on a 10-year cycle. If you go back,
yeah,
it's on so we're, we're getting close. And, I tell people, well, are you saving for why? Business is great. What happens when it doesn't? Oh, come on, business is great. But I think a lot of people just don't think about, what happened in 2008. And it was kind of funny because I went back into the painting business in 2008.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was been in the painting business for like 30 years. I took a few years off to buy and sell houses. We bought and sold, 55 houses, and then the market crashed, and it was like, okay, so one day you're a millionaire, and the next day you lost everything.
That's right.
And that's really a very common story, especially to a lot of the older guys that in their 30s and 40s that I've interviewed that are in finance and stuff now. They go, I was there, I did that. I had one guy that was he said all my coaching clients were real estate investors. You talk about tanked. Mm-hmm. He said my business disappeared.
Oh, that's so scary.
Disappeared. He said I was $1 million in debt. He said,
wow.
And I had to pay it off. He said it took him about a little over a year to pay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So he just
pretty good.
created stuff and then started coaching people on the stuff that he did to get out of debt.
I love that. That's great.
So let's get back to everyone being in debt and having so much fun doing that.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
No, I know. We think we're having fun till the Grim Reaper comes and we get that credit card statement or we get that extra bill in the mail that you go, did I really spend that money? And then
yeah.
Or I had this is kind of funny but crazy. I had an uncle that they'd go on vacation every 4 or 5 years. Really, really big time. I mean, they'd go to Europe and spend a month there. And I go, how do you do that? He goes, oh, we borrow the money. It takes us 4 or 5 years to pay it off.
Oh, no.
And I go, what? He goes, yeah. I said, you're crazy. But that was part of their lifestyle. That's what they built into their lifestyle.
Oh, man. That's so sad.
I know.
That breaks my heart a little bit.
I'd rather have the cash. I'd rather save up ahead and just go. But there again, it's okay. So this is, and I'm sure that you find this true, that people who have credit cards spend more money than people who don't have credit cards because it's so easy to just say charge.
Mm-hmm.
So if I got the cash to go away on vacation or to do whatever I want, I'm really going to think longer about how bad do I really want this.
Yeah, you do.
Really?
Yeah, here's another kind of fun tip if people are trying to figure out like mind hacks or tricks to, training their brain differently. One of the best things I think you can do is look at how much do you make per hour roughly. So if you're making, $40,000 a year from your business or your full-time job, you're roughly making about $20 an hour. Right. So that's, if you half it, that's kind of a general rule of thumb. So if that's your case, if you're making $20 an hour, and you go out to dinner and you decide you're going to buy for you and a couple friends and it's a $60 dinner plus a tip, you're looking at about $80.
Right.
How many hours of your life do you have to give up in order to pay for that dinner?
Wow.
And so when you start to reframe it as like, ooh, this is 4 hours of my life that I have to give up in order to pay for an $80 dinner, suddenly you start making decisions a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that's a wrong thing to do. Like you can still spend $80 on dinner. That's okay. But you should really plan for that first.
But you're being very conscious of what you're doing.
That's right.
Or
yeah.
Not doing. I know it was I don't know. I'm going to say I was probably in my late 20s, mid 20s, and I heard a guy give a speech, and he was talking about being responsible and irresponsible with money. And he says, I'm a millionaire. He said, matter of fact, he said, I'm a multimillionaire, but I just want to give you some parameters and let you think about what I'm going to say and what I'm saying and who is more irresponsible with their money. He says, back then, he said, I go and buy a BMW, I pay $25,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
He says, and you take an average person who is working on minimum wage and they go buy a $5 ice cream cone. He said if you break down the percentage of income to the amount of money was spent, who is the one that is less responsible with their money?
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, it's the guy that spent $5 on his ice cream cone because his income to spending ratio is just outrageous, because he spent back then, 25 years ago, $5 an hour was minimum wage. So he spent a whole hour, worked a whole hour, 60 whole minutes to eat one ice cream cone that he could just gobble down in 5 minutes.
Isn't that so sad? But we do it every day.
We do, but it really got me to think about how responsible can I be, and then how much did I want to be? Because there's that big difference there of what should I do and what do I want to do.
Oh, I totally agree. And then there's a whole other conversation too for the entrepreneurs listening in. You are sometimes in a cyclical business. At least I know mine is, and yours too, Dave. I'm sure it's cyclical. There's seasons for sure. So even then, it's like you can have really, really great years, but if you increased your lifestyle to compensate, you're like, oh, cool, I made $200,000 this year. And then the next year you make $80,000, but you increased your lifestyle to that of the $200,000 income, you're in for some problems. Like that's going to be trouble. And I think that's too many times, especially as entrepreneurs, you got to be extra careful about increasing your lifestyle until you can see like a sustainable track record of, no, my new bare minimum is about this. When you have a full-time job, it's a little bit different, but especially as entrepreneurs, you got to be extra careful about that lifestyle creep.
Right. That makes so much sense. A lot of times, I would think about it in the back of my mind, because I based everything on, what's coming in or what should be coming in and stuff like that. But yeah, there are times when, like and especially starting out, where you'd go a whole month and there wouldn't be anything.
Yep.
And then, the next month you do twice as much and you're going, this is crazy. And then the next month it'd drop off a little until luckily that I had enough mentors after I got out of business the first time and then went back in that to learn how to plan and how to market and create that funnel so that it's always going all the time, so there's always something available coming in, whether a phone call or email or quote. And the nice part about having that funnel full all the time is that you can be picky and choosy on who you actually want to do business with. Yeah.
It's a beautiful model when you can actually choose your ideal customer.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So this is cool. So you do coaching on helping people get out of the debt they're in, and I'm sure that just talking with you is in a fun way.
Yes. I have a lot of fun with people. I try, at least. It's a really serious, kind of boring topic historically, so I try to bring a little bit of life and energy into it. It's just something we all have to deal with, and there's so many times where people just want to ask someone, what does an annuity mean? Or what the heck is an index fund? And it's all of this stuff that we get, as we get older, we feel even more embarrassed if we don't know it. And so we're immediately we assume because we have money that we should have it all figured out. And it's that education piece that I usually am working with people on. But with coaching, Dave, I view myself more as an accountability coach than anything else when it comes to working with people on achieving their financial goals. Most people can put together a plan. They can put together a budget. They have a general idea of how to do that. But it's like when the rubber meets the road, they're not sticking to their own plan. And that's where I come in and I call people and I say, yo, did you do your budget? How much did you spend on eating out? What did you really spend? And so we week by week get to go through that process, which is fun for me, maybe not always fun for them, but at the end of the day, they're winning. They're accomplishing their goals.
Yes, and that's great. And that's that's so important, is to actually look and see that you're getting as your clients, see that I'm getting somewhere. I'm helping people, or I'm getting helped. So now I've got something to look forward to. So that's fun. So any last minute thoughts you'd like to leave us with? And then I'm going to ask how everyone can get a hold of you.
Yeah, the last minute thought that I have for people that are in an entrepreneurial role. So if you're trying to grow your own business, don't forget to start a savings account for your business as well. So we have emergency funds for our personal life, but you can also do the same thing for your business. So when the months are lower and you're not making quite as much money, and you may not get paid for a couple more months for a job that you did, you've got to be able to cover your personal expenses, which is why you have the personal fund. But don't forget your business fund too, so that you can still keep marketing and you can still keep trying to promote your business. I think it's a good thing to have is a business emergency fund too.
Awesome. That's great advice. I've done it, but it took me almost forever to figure it out.
Yeah, it does sometimes. I get that.
It does, yeah. I'm going, I should have been doing this years ago. But, you take what you got now and just deal with it and move forward. Right. So, Whitney, how can people get in touch with you to find out more about what you do, how you do it, and listen to your podcast? Tell us about your podcast, how to get over there.
So the best place to go is whitneyhansen.com. And on there, you'll see lots of really good blog posts, some free workshops, and then a link to my podcast, the Money Nerds podcast. So you can listen in and hear me get to chat with cool people about their money stories.
Cool. Awesome. And Whitney, thanks so much for being with us today. It's really been fun. I really love talking about money. I like talking about profits, and I've talked about growing. So this has really been good. I really appreciate your time. Thanks,
Dave. I had a ton of fun, too. I appreciate it.
Again, I want to thank you for joining us and investing your time with us today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, go to iTunes and give us a shout-out. You can also go to our website, www.contractorsecretweapon.com, and check out today's episode and leave us a comment in the bottom of the page. And if you haven't gotten your 15 secret weapon strategies to getting higher-end customers, get it while you're at the website. Also, I want to thank again our sponsors for keeping this podcast alive, for your profit-making pleasure. And so go be profitable this week. Work smarter, not harder, and learn how to leverage your time and your knowledge so that you can be more profitable. Again, see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Contractor's Secret Weapon podcast with Dave Negri. We would love to hear your comments about this episode, so visit us online at www.contractorsecretweapon.com and let us hear your thoughts. If you were listening via iTunes, please leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive, the more other contractors will benefit from this show. Thank you, and see you next time here on the Contractor's Secret Weapon podcast.